A couple of years ago, we were invited to a pastoral retreat. And one of the topics that was going to be discussed is how can our churches work together better to show Christ's love to folks. And we had recently had an experience with a homeless family who came actually and knocked on our door. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had a young woman knock on our door, our home, and just asked for money. And we gave them a little bit of money, found out their story, and then they allowed us to begin kind of helping them and trying to find services for them. And we were able to help them get into a place initially, but then there was some domestic issues and different things, and they parted ways, and she came to us then later, and they had a little, probably 18-month-old also, and she came and was needing, again, a place to live and services, and so we housed them actually for a little while, for a few days, and then we explored what the options were in Wichita, and it was really discouraging. There was not very many options available to her. She basically was turned away from most of them because they were full, and they just weren't able to accommodate her. And I really think that it would have been helpful had she been able to get into some place. And I will say, I actually have still contact with her. And this was 2 or 3 years ago that this all took place. And this program, Family Promise, would have been perfect for her had it been in place. But God is greater, and He provided for her. And she now actually is in her own place and with her son, and has a stable job and stuff like that. So I'm really thrilled to be able to say that that is the end of her story. But I'm also really excited that Family Promise is going to be available for more who are going to be coming to our door or somebody else's door and are going to need services.
So when we went to the pastor's retreat, this was on our hearts, and the guy that was facilitating the retreat got us together and said, what are some ideas of some things? And so we began to talk about this need for shelter for homeless families. And I think Des mentioned it first, and we talked to Carrie Corliss, and of course she took the ball and ran with it, and the rest is history.
So maybe a couple of years ago, I believe that God brought a number of families into the life of our family and our church who were in a situation of homelessness, or they were at the brink of homelessness. And so kind of walking with those families and really not knowing how to help in a lot of ways, and not knowing, seeing them get turned away from shelters, and seeing this need for help for families to not only get into housing, but to get into a situation where they can have hope in the future, and these children as well, to see them be able to shine in their life. And so I made a call to Family Promise National about a little more than a year ago, and they did their own needs assessment, independent needs assessment of Wichita, and found that we had a very high rating for the need for a Family Promise affiliate. So we had a community meeting just about a year ago where about 50 churches and organizations were represented, and from that we developed a core team of people who have been working fervently and diligently over the last year to get ready to where we are today to open our doors. So Lorraine Avenue Mennonite Church graciously gave us the use of a house that is adjacent to their building, where we'll have families during the day, where our families are during the day, to do job searches and housing searches, to do case management and take showers. Kids will get on and off the school bus. And so Charlie and Mabel Mullen have led an effort over the last several months to get this stay house up and ready for families, and so many hands have been at work to do that. Right around soon after the first of the year, we were hosting some luncheons for pastors and for clergy to come hear about Family Promise to try and recruit more churches to be involved. And so Pastor Cliff Lash brought that invitation to a ministerial alliance meeting where he met Jacqueline Cook Green, who ended up coming up to Cliff afterwards, after that meeting, and said, "You have to let me help." And Cliff and everyone who since heard that had a resounding, "Okay, absolutely." And mostly because we found out then that not only had she been involved with Family Promise in Collin County, Texas, but she had been the director of that affiliate. So huge blessing to all of us, even as we developed, to be able to have her expertise and her background and her experiences to help guide us to where we are now today.
Family Promise of Greater Wichita uses resources that are already available in the faith communities. We have 13 host churches that have signed on to help us provide the shelter piece for our families. And we have 9 support congregations that are coming alongside those host congregations. This creates a network of support for our families and really broadens their circle of community. And it helps them get back on the road to recovery. And once those families are plugged back into communities, that support system doesn't go away, it's still there. So it's a very strength-based support system that's lasting, that helps these families create a sustainable life as they move forward and out of that chapter of homelessness. Family Promise is a volunteer-run organization. It's very hands-on, and so when people feel compassion in their heart and want to do something about this situation in their own community, there are many ways to get involved. Getting involved at the host or support church level is one way to plug in. Those folks are going to provide overnight hosting for our guests. They provide meals and do those backup support things like washing the sheets and the blankets when the families move on to the next church, or doing the setup or the takedown. So those are all roles that people can play. But we also need support at the day center, and we need that 7 days a week. We break our shifts down from 8 to noon and noon to 4, and we ask folks to come in and help support us. That looks different every day. It could be providing support directly to a family in need, or it could be helping us with administrative support. So there are lots of ways to get involved there. We are also going to need support with transportation for the families. Some of our families will come in with vehicles that they can be able to transport themselves back and forth between host churches and the day house, but others are going to need to be provided transportation, which we will do with our van, but we need drivers. Our program puts a lot of resources into the families that we're helping. It creates a hope that those families don't get in programs that are more clinical. Because the program is hospitality based and the families are treated as guests, they retain a dignity that is something that they take out of program with gratitude. And they always tell us that made such a difference in them being able to step out of that situation.